This is the plaintiff, Jack Sullivan. He says his brother unfortunately passed away, and the defendant, his brother's landlord, stole money off the dresser as the ambulance was taking his brother to the hospital. He's haunted by this every day. The louse refuses to return his brother's money to him, and he's here suing him for every penny of the $723 this terrible guy stole. This is the defendant, Anthony Bongiorno. He says the plaintiff told him to use the $723 for rent his brother owed, then the next day demanded he return it. When he asked the guy to show him he was entitled to inherit the money, he became angry. And here they are. Bottom line, the plaintiff isn't owed any money. He is. He's accused of grabbing the cold, hard cash.
All parties, please raise your right hand. The People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Sullivan, you are suing Mr. Bongiorno for $723 that you say he stole from your brother. Talk to me and tell me what happened.
Okay, I received a phone call on December 3rd, I believe it was, and I was told that they found my brother unresponsive. They was taken by an ambulance to the emergency room. So I immediately went to the emergency room, and they were just bringing him out of ER. They had a trach down his throat, and they were moving him up to intensive care. Well,
what had happened? Did you find out what had happened?
Yeah, he has COPD, which we kind of knew all along, but they also found out that he had gallbladder cancer. He was 75 years old. He was my last surviving sibling. I lost two other brothers. And anyhow, when I got there, they were just bringing him out of ER, and I accompanied him to his room. And, of course, he was pretty much out of it at that point. But I went back every day to visit him. And about 2 days later, they took the trach out of him, and he was breathing on his own. And, I kind of got a flash of hope that he was going to get better, because he was talking to me like there was nothing wrong. He was eating like a pig. He was asking me for Reese cups all the time. And anyhow, one of the things he asked me was, where was his money? And I said that I had received a call from one of Mr. Bongiorno's workers. I believe his name was Brian, and he told me that they took the money and they were going to hold it. And they told me how much it was, a total of $1,723.
Okay.
$600 of that was for December's rent, which I had no problem with. They were entitled to that. But the remaining $723, he had no business taking. Matter of fact,
I'm kind of confused. How much was the total amount?
The total amount was $1,323.
$1,323.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So who did you have the discussion with? The defendant himself, or whatever helper he's talking about?
One of his employees from his auto shop called me when I was at the hospital, and said that they had his money and they were going to hold it. So then on December 15th, 2 days after he passed, I went and made arrangements with Esposito Funeral Home, to take care of my brother. And I paid them. And from there, I went to the service station with my friend Mike. Anyhow, we went there, and Tony came to the front desk.
When you say the service station, a service station that's owned by Mr. Bongiorno?
Yes.
And did your brother work there or something?
No. My brother just rented from him.
Rented the apartment from him?
I asked him. Yeah, yes, ma'am. So I asked him for my brother's money. And he said, unless you have a paper showing me that you're fiduciary responsible for him, I'm not giving it to you. So, I just left the funeral funeral guy's place. So I wasn't very happy, you know, because that's all my brother had. He was on disability, Social Security, and that money was all he had. And I told him, I says, I don't think it's right you took that money. You know, so we had a big discussion and argument about it. And he refused to give it to me. So I said, so you're telling me that if his estranged wife, who left him 2 years ago to live with her ex-husband, came here and asked you for the money, you would tell her no to without a piece of paper stating that she was fiduciary responsible for him? And he said, that's right. I said, so in other words, you plan on keeping it the whole time? I says, this makes no sense. And you know, I just couldn't live with it. I couldn't live with the fact that that was done to my brother, and I'm just trying to get some justification and relief from it all and put it to bed.
I think one of the things you said in your complaint was, I'd rather see it go to charity anywhere other than his pocket. So talk to me, Mr. Buongiorno. Tell me what's going on.
So on the 3rd of December, his brother called me to tell me to come get the rent. I sent an employee over there to get the rent. He didn't answer the door. I called him back. He answered. He goes, I don't know what happened. Send him back over. So I sent my guy over again to collect the rent. Again, he didn't answer the door. I called back the 3rd time, no answer. So we went over and opened the door, you know. So when we walk in,
what do you mean you opened the door? What do you mean you opened the door?
We unlocked.
Oh, you had the key.
He was in there.
And you had the key.
We had the key, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was supposed to open the door for my employee to collect the rent. He didn't, and we got worried, you know. So we unlocked the door and went in, found him on the ground, unresponsive and gasping for air, along with his money just thrown about the apartment. He must have had it in his hand, got up, fell on the floor, and the money was just kind of strewn around his body. So we called 911. We performed CPR. When the paramedics came, they were stepping on the money. So I figured it best just to collect all the money and keep it for safekeeping. You know, it seemed crazy to leave money laying on the floor. So I picked it up and you know, like Jack said, I told him I had it. I told his wife I had it.
You told whose wife? Whose wife?
Robert's wife.
Okay. Wait, who's Robert?
His brother's name is Robert, but they called him Sal.
Okay, because I saw the sign that said Sal, get well Sal, so I was thrown off.
Yeah.
All right, so you told Robert's wife because you knew Robert's wife?
Right, because they rented the apartment together 6 years prior.
Okay.
And I knew her as his wife. You know, there was never anything where that's not my wife, that's my wife. When COVID came, when the pandemic started, she moved, and I was under the impression she moved into some sort of senior living or something along those lines. You know, I don't know about them not being together.
Has anyone else asked you for the money besides Mr. Sullivan?
Well, I had conversations with his wife about it.
And what did she say?
When she said, keep the money for, you know, cleaning up, and I'm going to have to clean the apartment out. They're still full of.
Does she have a piece of paper that authorizes her to say where that money goes?
Well, no, I know her as his wife. You know, that's what I know as his wife. I've never met.
Is she, Mr. Sullivan, is she legally married to him still?
Yes, I believe they're still married, but they were estranged for like 2 years.
Have you spoken to the wife?
I got a phone call from her. She and me up and down on the telephone, and
Why?
told me that she told me to lay off of Tony. And I says, "Are you kidding me?" I says, "I'm incurring the expense of burying your husband." I said, and you're going to tell him he can have that money? I said, I don't understand this, you know. I said, if you don't want the money, I said, then it should go to his biological daughter. And, or like I said earlier, Judge, I don't care who gets the money, but I just don't feel what he did was the right thing to do by misappropriating those funds.
Mr. Buongiorno, tell me Do you have any proof of what the wife supposedly said to you? Did she give you a document saying, I hereby, as his heir, authorize that you did blah, 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 or no?
Yes, I had my attorney write out basically a memorandum of our conversations and had her sign it, and I submitted it to the court.
Did you perform CPR on him?
I did.
The wife claims in here that Sal said for you to hold on to it in case he wasn't out of the hospital in January. You didn't testify about that. So who is it that said you could hold on to it for January rent? Was it Barbara?
I talked to his wife, and then when Sal was awake in the hospital, I talked to him on the phone, and I explained to him exactly what happened. He didn't really have recollection of what happened. So I explained to him that we found him on the floor, unresponsive. I picked up his money. I told him exactly how much I had. He sounded good when he was in the hospital. We thought he would be coming home. I said, I'll hold on to the money for you, and if you don't make it home by January, that'll cover your January's rent. And he was fine with it. He wasn't demanding money. He was in the hospital. You know, I've known Sal and Barb for 6 years, and we had a good relationship, you know. And like I said, I'd never met Jack. So when he came in demanding this money, I said, yeah, I have no problem giving it to you as long as you have some sort of something saying you're, you know, financially responsible for your brother's estate.
Did your brother have a will, Mr. Sullivan?
No, ma'am.
Right. And according to you, Mr. Bongiorno, did you have to clear out all of Sal's belongings?
It's still in there, and the apartment will need to be cleaned and emptied.
Yeah, here's where the problem lies, okay? Mr. Bongiorno's giving him CPR. Mr. Bongiorno sees the money on the floor and, you know, and people coming and stepping all around it. Mr. Bongiorno collects it. Mr. Bongiorno then lets everyone know, hey, everybody, I got the money. And then Mr. Bongiorno has a document from the one person who's probably the heir to the money if there's no will. If there's no will and she's legally still married to him, it's her money. It's not your money. It's not my money. It's not Mr. Bongiorno's money. It's her money. And what does she do? She not only signs this document giving him, you know, possession of the next $725 to cover the expenses of cleaning the place out in January rent. She also, we know from your testimony, calls you and says, cut it out. You're not entitled to the money. Now, I understand your frustration because here's the wife who left, who doesn't talk to him. You're going through the expenses of the, you know, the burial and everything else. I know it feels wrong. In order for you to have claim to that money, you would have to go to court, file a case in probate, and ask to be made his executor, which is never going to happen if he has somebody he's still legally married to. So what will end up happening is she will, you know, she steps up, she'll be the executor, and then it'll go exactly where she said for it to go. You would have a chance to then say, well, then I'm suing the estate for his burial damages. So that's where it should go. So it's not that you can't lay a claim, it's that it's very complex for you to be able to lay the claim. You would have to say, hey, I know there's this money in his estate. You didn't step up and pay, so I'm filing this case. Are you going to go through all that? You can if you want to. But what you can't do is you can't come to court and sue him and say, I have a right to the money because I should. That's not how this kind of thing works. So in this case, I'm ruling in favor of Mr. Bongiorno, which, let me be very clear, I'm not ruling that he's entitled to keep that money. I am ruling that probate court has to make that decision. So if you want that money, you have to go to probate court and file a probate case and then claim that money against his estate because you have those funeral expenses. Okay, I'm sorry that it's complicated like that, but that's exactly how it works because he died intestate, meaning no will, and therefore the law of your state says his wife gets the money. Mr. Bongiorno has a colorable claim to keeping the money for his expenses. I'm just not ruling it because I'm not probate court. That's my verdict. Good luck, folks.
So, in a very complex case, the plaintiff fails to get any money from the defendant out of this. Mr. Sullivan, the judge explained very carefully to you the situation. How do you feel about it? What are you thinking?
I feel, congratulations, Tony. You got what you wanted in the first place. And I I did all I could do to try to justify the wrong that was done to my brother, and there's nothing else I can do.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say the wrong that was done to your brother. Mr. Bongiorno actually came in and saved his life at that point. You recognize that? Did you know that he found him on the floor, you know, administered, tried to resuscitate him, called 911?
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes, he did say that. Yes, I do, and he did say that, and I did thank him once when he did call the hospital and I answered the phone, and I did thank him for that. But you know, my brother paid a security deposit too, on top of all the monies we're talking about that he's keeping. That should have been used for the cleanup. So be it.
Well, there you go. You've learned a lot from this court case. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the way it is for you, and it was a lesson for you. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, Mr. Bongiorno, you're okay with the case, right? Obviously.
This is all an unfortunate situation, of course, but I did talk to Sal in the hospital, and he understood that I was keeping the money towards January's rent, and if he didn't get out, and he didn't get out of the hospital, he sadly passed away. I think I was very straightforward with everybody. I wasn't out to steal anything from anybody, and I think justice prevailed.
All right, sir, that'll do it then. Thank you very much, and I guess you can hold on to the money for now.
Well, Doug, I mean, this is simple. This is a jurisdictional issue. The plaintiff should be going to a probate court, which is where estates are probated. It is not the province of small claims court to do this. That's why this case was dismissed without prejudice, meaning it can be filed in the proper court.
Do you have any tips for job interviews?
Come early.
Yeah.
Come prepared.
Right.
Come clean.
Yes.
Dress nicely. Do your research beforehand and know who you're talking to. And nowadays you can Google people.
Right.
So
be enthusiastic.
Be enthusiastic. Energy level up, and kind of make sure that by the time the person's done in their 20 minutes that they want to work with you.
Right. You're trying to sell yourself.
You're trying to sell yourself, so put your best foot forward. But preparation is always key to that, because if I interview someone and they have already Googled me, like I'm impressed when they know what they're talking about rather than just sitting there answering, with short, stubby answers.
Right. And try to make eye contact. It doesn't have to be a steady gaze like you're a boxer
creepy,
at the beginning of the fight and you're trying to creep somebody out.
No, but absolutely,
right?
Keep eye contact. Don't be looking down at notes. Right. It's...
Right. People want you to look them in the eye in
right.
that type of conversation. So
right.
That's definitely important. And also, after the fact, send an email or a note or a letter
saying,
somehow.
Thank you for meeting with me.
Thanks
I enjoyed our talk. It was very, informative.
That comes
I look forward
quickly.
to hearing from you.
Right.
Yeah.
They look at you and they go, this person's really got their act together. Maybe
right.
that's the one we want at our business.
Right.